Well, it seems to me that a lot of the issues that are being raised rather dramatically in, say, Herndon, Prince William and Loudoun are in some ways a response to the failure of the federal government to enact comprehensive immigration reform. And so the inability of the federal government or unwillingness of the federal government to address the issue of immigration has led to local communities taking the law into their own hands and coming up with local solutions to what I believe is a federal issue. And from the perspective of our church, we recognize the right of nations to security and to protect the borders. However, we also believe that we need to deal with the 12 million immigrants who are here in ways that are compassionate. So our bishops have called our system a broken system. I think there are practical issues in the area that have to do not necessarily with immigration, but that are often linked to immigration. Issues of affordable housing, issues of overcrowding in the more affordable housing, issues that people are responding to with great fear with regard to, say, gang violence that's often related to ethnic communities and so forth, and that's causing some neighborhoods to have lots of questions, and they tend to see the immigration issue as somehow or other the cause or the solution to dealing with these community problems. So I agree with you, we need to have some kind of compassionate conversation and debate about the needs of people, the needs of, quote, the native community, the needs of immigrant community, and seeing how both communities' needs can be better and more effectively addressed. At the same time, I believe that one of the fundamental issues that the churches need to stand up on is the whole issue of human rights. When I hear people talking about the law and absolutizing the law, even the power of local ordinances, or idolizing federal law, which, as I said at the beginning, is a broken system, we sometimes forget that human laws need to be reviewed in the context of human rights and, from the church's perspective, moral law, and that the dignity of the human person should always be observed. And there's a tension in some situations between civil arrangements or legal arrangements, ordinances, and fundamental constitutional rights or human rights that should be guaranteed by international law. The right to food, the right to shelter, the right to an education. Those rights aren't lost because of one's documentation or lack of it. And the tendency to criminalize the situation of people who are in undocumented status, there's no base for that. At least our church teaches that we don't confuse being undocumented with being, quote, a criminal. And we prefer to use the word undocumented than illegal, because while the situation might be not in conformity with the law, people don't become illegal. They don't lose their humanity, their human dignity. We don't just classify them as illegal. And so I think the whole issue of protecting the human rights and the human dignity of undocumented people is something the church needs to stand up about, particularly when you see some of the debates that go on that don't seem to pay much attention to questions of human rights, human decency, the right of the family, for example. People are boasting about the numbers of people they can deport. Well, sometimes there are kind of conflicts of rights. How about children who are born in this country who are citizens and might have the right to their parents' affection and presence in their lives? And we want to get after those families. And what does deportation do to family? And isn't family a value? In fact, it's a very orthodox and conservative value. So why don't we look into that aspect of the issue as well?